Hello, guys. How are we doing tonight? Sorry, messing around with a few things. Let's get right into it, though. Hopefully, you guys all had great days. And yeah, SJ, I did see myself 4K on GC, 4K on gold. Let's just say the investment accounts are doing fucking great, which is amazing, to be honest. Let's get, I
Let's
mean,
get
let's just say gold was a long time coming, right? And 4K is just the start in my book. It's definitely going to be a long-term investment for me.
let's get
Can I get a quick sound check by you guys? Can you guys hear me all right? Can you guys see my chart?
let's get 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 let's get
Right? That is fun. Hello. Can you guys hear me all right? Okay, sounds good. All right, sorry about that. I just wanted to confirm because I was seeing some weird thing on my other chart. Let's get right into it, right? I said that this early on this week, I didn't know if we were going to be having many PA reviews, but got some catching up to do, so might as well happy to. And I mean, after a day like today of trading, very happy. In our weekly outlook, we discussed about this gap, wanting to see the respect after closing above previous month's high right here. Pretty straightforward. What was our plan for today? Well, we had two possibilities, right? I said Monday consolidation and then midweek low. Or the other possibility, this is all stuff that was discussed in the weekly outlook, right? So if you're curious, you can go there and see it for sure. But the other possibility was with the Monday expansion, then midweek consolidation into a continuation. So that's the profile I'm going to be going off of right now. But I was expecting consolidation or expansion higher, which made it super easy going into today to figure out what I wanted to be looking to trade. If we look right here, we'll see these are the SMT indicator with a specific target only looking at 9:30 and the PM session, right? So in this 15-minute chart, we can see this SMT, which we can also very clearly see actually with the session ranges indicator. So we had the characteristics of an initial trending day on Nasdaq, but after an overnight expansion, you expect New York to do what? Retracement continuation. I don't know how many times we've seen this exact profile happen,
let's get
and it just keeps repeating. Why? Because that's how the market works, right? You can profile trending markets pretty easily, if I might add that as well. So definitely something to look into if you are having some trouble on your daily perspective, right? Intraday time frame, pretty much, which for me is the 15 minutes. But as we can see right here at 9:30, we dropped down on ES going into 10 a.m. We took out London low, current day's low, forming some very big SMT. Before that point, you could look for retracements, as I said, right? Expansion, retracement, continuation. So you could have a short bias right up until London low gets taken, right? That is your London framework. Overnight took out London high. You expect it to run to London low, with, of course, the SMT on NASDAQ telling you that this objective has been met. And further down the line, you can also, um, what was I going to say? I completely forgot what I was going to say. Oh, yes, you can also long after these levels are met. And then we also had actually a lunch rate, which we can see very well on this 15-minute time frame. That also offered an end of day short scenario. So it's three very clear frameworks that were successful. So three successful frameworks today. Definitely an easier day to grasp, at least from an intermediate perspective, a higher time frame perspective. We go down here, and yes, I had that suspicion because I didn't see any bearish breakers on ES, but we had a very nice entry for a short right here at 932, right? 930 open, traded higher. There was some form of SMT, just not 1 minute SMT, right? There was lower time frame divergence at these levels. I mean, we can go see it. I rarely go down the time frame here, but we'll see it right at 930 here, how these levels are mitigated, but they are not on ES. And if you're wondering why it's not showing up, it's because of the remove after invalidation parameter. Because I only want to see valid SMTs, I think that's the best way to actually uh, do these reviews. But whenever you're backtesting, definitely have that setting off. Overall, very simple entry on an IFVG right here. We formed the breaker block at 930. 931 inverted the array and gave you your entry opportunity right here at 932. Your stop, you would be looking at your inversion fair value gap here, along with this tiny little guy. If we look at the values here, we'll see the high is at 207.75 and the low here, 207.75. Okay, well, on MNQ, this was actually a fair value gap. It is not here, but it does not change the stop loss by much because you have fair value gap and that inversion fair value gap. So you can have your stop all the way up here. You can have your stop here. As I said, whenever we expand aggressively from the 930 open or any important session open, I like to see price not revisit that. So I like to tighten my stop. But in this case, four handle difference will not change your profitability. All right. Definitely not. For myself, there was no clear objective other than London low, but as we can see, when ES took out London low, that is where this trade should have closed. Although we did have some very nice relative equal lows for a partial objective. I personally did not trade this short. I was waiting for a long, but you would have had a very nice opportunity to partial at 2.75 R. And if you close your entire position when London low was met, or at least when current day's low was met, that would have been somewhere here. So 1010 or 957 here. So both these candles are actually almost at the exact same price, which would have meant over 2R, right? So definitely a very great return on this very simple trade. Came back to your break even to scare you for a sec. Also provided with an additional entry, right? We can see this bearish breaker. Let me move this aside. We can see this bearish breaker form. And you know what? Let's make it easier. Why do we have an indicator? If not for that, let's just look at bearish breakers only. This will be a little simpler. Right here, bearish breaker. You have your inversion fair value gap here. That gives you your entry at 940. Still a valid entry, although it is quite late for my liking. I can't discourage it because everything else aligns, and it had the potential to run all the way to this purple line we see, which is London low, even potentially current day's low, but we formed SMT at these levels, right? So even this entry, in my mind, is not too late of an entry for that move. Now, where I was interested in was in bullish opportunities. Now, of course, as soon as London low is met, I can start looking for longs. But when I see NASDAQ and ES being uncorrelated, what does that mean? Well, I have consolidation on NASDAQ, and there's a lack of correlation between both assets. So am I going to trade this? Well, usually I like to wait for 1030. So whenever 930 consolidates at the open, so we had a small expansion, and then this is all consolidation in my book, right up until this raid, which is opening range low. I just thought of it. Let's bring this guy in. We traded it today. Right here, opening range low. I like to wait for 1030, which for me, the first hour of trading, or some people call it opening range, some people call it initial balance, whatever you call it. For me, that's the opening range, and I look to wait for 1030 to trade. Overall, you would have had the opportunity. I mean, if you're still in that trade, well, if you're taking that long at that time, 1001 would have given you an opportunity. So I guess that's one possible loss, as we can see. And right here, we have another entry opportunity after the breaker is met, and that would have been another loss right here. So overall, if you were trading there, I managed to skip those losing trades because, as I said, I was waiting for an additional confirmation, which led to me taking this beautiful trade right here. So we have, oh, I forgot here as well. On MNQ, we had an IFVG here, so my stop placement was just like this. Got a little scary. But if you're using your 3PD arrays here, you have your fair value gap, inversion fair value gap, and your order block right here. Once again, got quite deep into drawdown, but had plenty of upside. I personally, with this daily framework, right, once again, of expansion, retracement, continuation, was looking for a full move. and so didn't have a reason to take profit anywhere before this point. And then we also had current days high. We had a bunch of other levels. I personally closed my entire trade here because of this. This one pissed me off. So I didn't take a partial right here. I had a trailing stop that got hit right here for a partial in my position. Basically, I just managed it not incorrectly, but not efficiently either. So I was very happy with taking my full position here at opening range high, and I did not hold all the way to current day's high. Also, this is where we formed SMT between NASDAQ and ES, with ES reaching the current day's high. Well, NASDAQ had yet to reach that level. If you're wondering what current day's high is, I just use the session ranges indicator, right? 6 p.m. to 9:30. I want to see my overnight highs and lows. And when I'm trading the New York session, I refer to that as current day's high. Overall, a very good trade. Definitely could have held on a little bit further, but quite happy with just closing out its entirety at the opening range high. And further down the line, let's just bring that back to bearish. I feel like it's easier to use the filtering modes for the indicator. I really like doing that, especially when I'm trading live. If I'm looking for a long, I don't want to see bearish breakers because they don't matter to me. I'm looking for my long. I have my framework. I expect that any bearish array, like bearish breakers, will be disrespected. So why would I want to see them? And in this case, in a bearish setup, I don't want to see bullish breakers. Once current day's high got taken, that actually removed the SMT that we had between both assets. But since lunch high was taken, you could have started looking for shorts. Now you might ask me, oh, why? Right? There's no more SMT on the highs. Well, I have my lunch framework. I don't need to think more than that. Moreover, I have a very nice confirmation here with the equal lows that were formed at said lunch low. Definitely a very nice level to look to target. And I mean, if we look at the first available entry, it was actually on the fair value gap. So you can see we formed a breaker here and formed a breaker here. So we see both unicorns related to those breakers. But the first available entry was at 241. And then you have fair value gap, you have inversion fair value gap, you have another fair value gap above. Actually, this inversion fair value gap tightens your stop a little bit. It is not one. I am seeing inversion fair value gaps today, guys. But you had a very nice entry, and of course, all the way down to lunch low. That is plenty of risk to reward at 4.9. But for me, very clear, definitive partial here, right? All of this is low resistance. We should easily expand through all of this, and then we can look to partial at this clear level. If you're wondering why, well, we can always reach to a 5-minute chart. I do not want to see 5-minute breakers. Let's just do this. Let's just do 1 to 3 or 1 to 4 actually.
Let's get
all right. And we look at this range, right, which is the range of your framework. The first discount in efficiency in this case is this level.
let's get
I mean, pretty straightforward. You know what? I actually made some templates, so why not use them? Right here, first discount. So you had a very nice 2.5 R partial just before going all the way down to your final objective, which actually got met a minute before 4 p.m. So honestly, I don't have much to say on a day like this, right? It is what I refer to as a perfect day. Now, if you had a hard time, I'm sorry, right? First of all, I feel your pain. But truth is, on a day like today, it just there you shouldn't be losing, in my book, at least with my model, with the Rise model, with any understanding of trading expansion in futures markets. You had plenty of opportunity for both sides. The only way I can see this being a losing day is if I got chopped up here and decided to stop trading, which is reasonable, but in my book, you should have been able to filter out these conditions. Do we have any questions? Right, those are the moves for the day. Definitely a lot of opportunity there.
let's get let's get let's get let's get
Breaker block right after lunch high was taken. 2 p.m. candle. I think I have my filters because I was trading this PM. Let's actually look at all the breakers in the PM session. There might be a bullish breaker. So this is 130 right here, right? I just recognize it from the opening price, right? But 130 right here, there are bullish breakers. There is a bearish breaker before lunch high is taken. As you can see, lunch high is taking here at 4203. And we can see from our tiny little simple guy, if I zoom in, now there's a lot of overlap, so I can probably not hover over that drawing. But here, let's, you know what I want to show you is that's what the signals are for in the breaker indicator, right? So right here, you'll see this line in style if you do have that indicator. But we have signals either for a line, so you can see when that breaker was formed. So as you can see, this line appeared. So when price crosses this level, this is where your breaker is. I like just using little signals when I'm reviewing, so it shows me specifically what candle it was formed on. When I'm live trading on my charts, it's actually the opposite. I don't have the signal, and I use the line so I can see the level that was broken. But when reviewing trades, I feel that this is much easier. As you can see, the breaker block was formed here, and I was not looking for a short, actually, before lunch high was taken. And after that point, the next bearish breaker that was formed were your entry parameters. I thought the 40 candle was a breaker. Is it because the bullish candle is the swing low? Let's see it. 2 p.m. right here. Let me just go over it. Right here. Okay, so you mean from this range to this range and then being taken, we never traded back down within it.
Let's get
So there is no bearish breaker there. So I don't look at the candle and just decide once we trade below that candle, that is a breaker. You need to look at the entirety of the range. So that entire range, then we need one side to be taken, in this case the high, and then the other side to be taken, which it did not get taken.
let's get
SMT with the first breaker block. There might be some SMT up here with the first breaker block. When do you mean specifically? What are you looking for? My pleasure, Renee. SJ, what do you mean? SMT with the first breaker.
let's get
To count that as a trade.
let's
The
get
SMT with the first breaker. Was there SMT anywhere? I'm trying to understand what you're saying. Before lunch high is taken. No,
let's get
I'm never taking a trade before. In the PM, I've said two things, right? I'm either gonna trade a 2 p.m. power of 3, which means I'm gonna wait for 2 p.m. and then trade a power of 3 move if the morning was consolidating, pretty much. So if it's consolidating, then I know I can have that. Or if the lunch retraced, then I can have that. Was the lunch a retracement? No, the lunch was a consolidation. Okay, what's the other thing I can trade in the PM session? Lunch framework, which means that I need to wait for either one of these levels to be taken before I have a trade opportunity. So no, for me, there definitely was not a possibility at all of us having a trade before, specifically before 1403, which is when lunch was taken. The lunch candle was taken. The lunch high, sorry.
let's
Does
get
that make any sense? Hopefully it does. Awesome. Sorry about that. I kind of choked on my breath there for a second. Do we have any questions? MQ made the breaker block after lunch high. Well, perfect. Oh, you mean like right here? Well, if there is a bearish breaker in there, is it a
let's get
valid loss? Yes. And does that loss recoup all your losses? Yes, 100%. But yeah, if there was a bearish breaker here, that's definitely a good trade. I'm not going to wait for current day's high to be met. It's already met on my other asset. I don't need to. So yeah, definitely a valid trade. I'm looking at minis right now, but if micros did make a breaker here, definitely worthwhile. I personally, whenever I'm trading micros now with Top Step X, that has changed my approach a little bit, and it's actually the first time that I'm actually like actively looking at the micros chart. Usually, I would just have my execution chart being micros and then all my other chart being minis, because that is the asset with the most volume, right?
let's get
And that's what I like to do, at least, SJ. Nice to know I'm not alone. Any final questions before we call it a night here? Definitely going to be a week packed. So tomorrow, just a confirmation for you guys, there definitely won't be a peer review, but I do want to make it so that every other day this week, unless it's really, really uneventful, like we just have a full day of consolidation. And even then, I mean, I could do a peer review and talk to you guys about how how I navigate these conditions, right, and alleviate losses. But we're gonna have at least two more peer reviews this week, probably another one as well, depending on the price action. On that note, I'm gonna call it a night. Thank you all for showing up. Love to see it. Hopefully, you guys all had a great trading day, and I wish you all luck in your next trading day tomorrow. Have a great night, guys. Appreciate it.